is Rachel and I'm here today to do my wrap up for the month of November 2018. Very nearly over now. It is currently December 2nd and I just can't believe it's December. But yeah, I'm going to talk about the books that I read in the month of November today. Side note, I read 101 books this year. Last year, I tried so hard to read 100 books and I ended up reading 99 because I kept picking up smaller books to try and reach my goal. And this year, I've just chilled and I set my goal to like 24 and I reached it. So obviously, less pressure is better for me. So, in the month of November, I read a total of 8 books. So I read 2 YA contemporaries, I read 3 fantasies, 1 literary fiction and 2 non-fiction books, and 2 of those were rereads. And I order my wrap-ups in order of least enjoyment to most enjoyment, so I'm going to start with the ones that weren't so great, because one wasn't so great this month. I've not really had a book that I've not clicked with as much as this first one in ages. I feel a bit awkward because so many people love this book and talk about this book. I just hated it. It was not fun for me. So yeah, the first book is Autumn by Ali Smith. So this book has been discussed so much on BookTube and got so much hype around it and has been enjoyed by a lot of people that I usually enjoy the same types of books as. This is the 3rd time that I've tried to read it and the first time I've been successful in reading it. I've also tried to read The Accidental and How to Be Both by Ali Smith before and never gotten through them. Ali Smith has a really weird writing style, which is the first thing about this book that I thought I would really click with. I really enjoy writers who are very experimental with the way that they write, the way that they order their writing and things like that. It's one of the things that I love about like Grief is a Thing with Feathers, is that I don't know how to identify that book. So I thought that was really going to be in this book's favour. It's not. I don't like Ali Smith's writing at all, really. I don't like her style. This is set in the UK and focuses around UK politics and the vote to leave the European Union. Thought I would really enjoy that. Didn't. There's also some feminism in here. That was the most interesting thing about this book, was when she was talking about the artist and sort of being a woman and not being able to study her because there aren't enough sources because she's a woman in the art world. That was the most interesting part of this book, but even that didn't really hold my attention. I just found it boring, and the only reason I finished it is because I had it on audiobook and the audiobook was only like 5 hours, so I was like, may as well finish it. Just not for me. I didn't give it 1 star because I don't think it's a terrible book. I don't think it's badly written. I think it deals with interesting things. So I gave it 2 stars because it's not like it's terrible, it didn't offend me, it's not badly written, it's just not for me. So yeah, gave that one 2 stars. My next read I gave 3 stars and it is Native American Mythology by QL Pearce. So I didn't know I was going to pick this up this month. I was working in the library in Zurich and then I was like, oh, I'll go and look for some sources on Native American stuff for like writing research, and I thought, oh, I'll just flick through that, try and get some like ideas, and I ended up reading the whole thing. It was fascinating. So it's a really good starter and overview for like Native American, sort of like the cultural stories that Native American people have. It's great for that like getting started because it's very brief, but in some parts it uses examples that are very specific, but it doesn't like overload you with that, which I think is really great for like a first time read on this topic. So it covered the theory on how Native Americans are thought to have gotten to America like just after the Ice Age, which was fascinating. That was so interesting. And then it talks about beliefs about creation. It talks about how myths are told and what they are used for. So some are used to help people with what they can hunt. Some are used to warn children not to go near ice that could break underneath them, like all that sort of stuff. So this was fascinating and I gave it 3 stars. It also has some little illustrations and photos all the way through, which is quite nice. Read that one. The next book I listened to on audiobook, and that was Bossypants by Tina Fey. This is a memoir about Tina Fey's like life and how she got into comedy and being a mother and all of that sort of stuff. So the great thing about this audiobook is that it is read by Tina Fey herself, which just like memoirs read by the person who the memoir's about are just one of my favourite things. So I really enjoyed this and I gave it 3.5 stars. Preferred it to Amy Poehler's actually, which I didn't think I would because I like Amy Poehler more than Tina Fey just because I really enjoy Parks and Recreation. But I thought Tina Fey's was stronger and she covered a lot more topics successfully than Amy Poehler's did. The first thing to say is this memoir is funny. Like, it's so funny. She's really honest, which I liked. And she talks about being a woman in comedy and the sexism that she was party to because of that. She talks about being a mother. She talks about gender's presentation in the media and how it's represented to children, and she talks about her daughter and the things that her daughter is now picking up that are like gender stereotypes that she doesn't like, which obviously, like, I read a lot of feminism books, I find that fascinating. And I also loved hearing about her time on SNL and how she ended up playing Sarah Palin on SNL. Yes, Tina Fey's memoir, fascinating, really enjoyed it, 3.5 stars, would recommend. The next book I have is my first reread of the month, and that was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I gave this book 4 stars, which is up from last time. I read it about 2 years ago because my girlfriend was saying how much she really enjoyed this book. So I ended up reading it, and I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars. And yeah, this time it went up to 4. I really, really, really enjoy this book. The thing that I really love with John Green's writing is how he incorporates seemingly unnecessary information into the story and weaves it in so that it actually is crucial, and it just, like, I just love that. So one of the ways that he does it is when Hazel is talking about infinities between numbers, and she's talking about the infinity between 0 and 1 and how there's a bigger infinity between 0 and 100, and she relates all that back to the story and what's going on and how she's feeling, and I just adore that. I love it so much. And it's something that I noticed he did a lot in Turtles All the Way Down as well, and it's definitely the thing that I enjoy the most about John Green's writing. And yeah, I love this book. I love the reread. Obviously I'm still so in love with Augustus. I think he's so funny. So yeah, read that one. Next book I'm gonna slot in here because I haven't rated it, but it was also a reread and it was also a YA contemporary, so we're just gonna slot it in with The Fault in Our Stars, and that book was This Lullaby by Sarah Dessen. So this is a book that I used to read a lot as a teenager. It's one of those books where your copy is absolutely battered because you read it so many times and you are worried to reread it again because it's so battered. I picked it up this month obviously because I was doing a lot of writing and I kind of just wanted something that was chill and something that I knew, and that kind of comfy feeling you get from a reread, and I definitely wasn't disappointed. I loved rereading this book. I will say I can see problems with it now. I can see how problematic some parts of the book are, but I still love it and it still makes me happy, and that's the reason that I wouldn't rate it anymore, because I'm just like in between good and bad really. So yeah, read that one, loved it. It focuses on a girl called Reni who struggles being emotional because her mum remarries all the time and her dad left her as a child, and she has bad sexual experiences in her past, and so then she meets a guy, she meets a musician, and then yeah, romance ensues. I'm just trash for the book. So yeah, read that. Oh, the tea's too hot, the tea's too hot. The next books I'm going to mention all together, there are 3 books, but they're all in a series, so I'm going to just talk about them together. So I read books 3, 4 and 5 in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas, and I gave all of them 4 stars. So a little bit of background, I have previously read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight about 2 years ago. I found Throne of Glass was okay. It was enjoyable. There was enough going on that I enjoyed it, but I struggled with the characters because I found them very juvenile and unlikable. I didn't really like the love interests. Like, one of them was a nice guy, but I didn't like their relationship, and the other guy I can't stand. So I had my problems with that, went into Crown of Midnight and hated Crown of Midnight until about halfway through, and the last half I really enjoyed. So I've always just been kind of like, okay, when I read Heir of Fire, I'll make my decision as to whether I continue with the series or not, because I've enjoyed it and disliked it at the same time. But I didn't pick up Heir of Fire for a long time, and that was because I just didn't have this like thing of like loving and wanting to carry on with the series, which I normally feel with fantasy stuff. So I didn't know if I would actually ever finish it, and Heir of Fire is a lot bigger. So this month I picked up Heir of Fire, read it, and this, even with all the ones that I've read this month, this is my favourite book in the Throne of Glass series. I adored this book. So I loved that we had our main character move, and so we got to see a lot more of the world. I loved that it was like a proper fantasy where it's like multiple perspectives, where those perspectives are taking place in different areas of the world that she's created. That I really enjoyed. I enjoyed seeing more of the world and seeing it, you know, grow and learn more about it. I liked how we had our main character mature in this. In these 3 books, she has matured into a better main character in my opinion, and someone that I actually like now. I did not like the main character in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, so it's really nice to be able to like her now. And the new love interest, I adore. Like, I just adore that relationship. I adore him. Yeah, it was great. So loved this. This is my favourite so far. And after that, I read Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms. I listened to Empire of Storms on audiobook because I don't have the physical copy, and I read them in very quick succession. I also gave those 4 stars. With Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms, I found that I really loved the new characters and the new relationships that developed in those books that weren't just the main characters. Like, we had some good side character development that I enjoyed. I also loved the way that the magic system has developed. In Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, we don't really have any experience of the magic system in the books, which I think is a problem with them and one of the reasons that I didn't enjoy them as much. And the magic system is really interesting, and the way that she talks about it is fascinating. So I really enjoyed that. But the reason that these books aren't 5 stars, and I don't think I would ever give any of the Throne of Glass books 5 stars, is because there are too many plot inconsistencies for me to give it any higher. And because I didn't enjoy the first 2, I kind of, like, I don't have that deep-rooted love, if that makes sense. Like, you read Harry Potter and I'm so invested in the main 3 characters that it just grows over the series, but I'm only invested from Heir of Fire at this point, which is the 3rd book, so my whole feelings towards it are just a bit lessened. So yeah, that's how I feel. I am going to make a video talking about the series as a whole and how I find it, and discussing these plot inconsistencies that I don't enjoy, but I'm going to wait until I've read Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash, because the series is finished now anyway, so I may as well read the rest of the books and then talk about it in a separate video. So yes, I will make that at some point soon. So they're all the books that I finished in the month of November, and then I have my currently reading pile, which grew. We're not even going to mention things that were on my currently reading pile before, because yeah, just no. But I started Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. I read like the preface bit, and then I'm halfway through chapter 1. This is a book that I'm taking my time with because it's talking about things that I didn't know about. So the first chapter is about the history of Black people in the UK, how they ended up being there, and the general shittiness of the British Empire and all that sort of stuff. So I am finding this is very interesting, and it's teaching me things that I didn't know before, but it means that I can't pick this up and be like, oh, I've got a spare 10 minutes, I'll pick that one up. Like, when I read it, I want to dedicate a lot more time to it. So that's why I've not finished this one, but it's not a reflection on the book, it's just a reflection of how I want to read it. So yeah, reading that one. Then I started Girls and Sex by Peggy Orenstein. I've read the introduction where she talks about the research, how it was conducted, who she spoke to, all that sort of stuff, which I always find quite fascinating because it kind of gives you a look into what you're going to get from the rest of the book. So that was really cool. But the reason that I didn't continue with this is because I also started Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates, and I was really enjoying this one, so I ended up just reading this. I'm on page 120 so far. But yeah, I ended up just reading this one, and then I will read this one after, because yeah, the books are too similar for me to read them at the same time. I'm just going to get them confused and think they're the same book. So yeah, wanted a bit of separation, but definitely going to finish both of those. And then the last book that I'm currently reading is Bonfire by Krysten Ritter. This one is more just that it's not as gripping as I hoped it would be. That isn't to say I'm not enjoying it, and that isn't to say I won't finish it. It's like a 3-star. Like, it's good enough for me to keep going, but it's not good enough to make me want to read it over everything else, if that makes sense. So I'm going to continue with this one, but I'm just not sure when. This follows a woman who is a journalist, and she goes back to the town she used to live in to research this like chemical plant company type thing and some health problems that have been happening to the people in the town. But obviously she's going back to her old town, lots of old feelings are coming up and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm enjoying this, but not enjoying it a massive amount. So they are all the books that I read in the month of November. Comment down below if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!